Hello my friends, today I'm extremely happy to finally share with you something that I've been working on for the past 3 years. Today I present to you the Modern 80s Kit Max. If you've been following my channel for a while, you might be familiar with the Modern 80s Kit, the OG. This was my first instrument that I released ever, and this was something that I designed for my own work. So I've been producing a lot of synthwave music for artists, for clients. This specific sound was a sound that pleased 99% of the people that I worked for, and of course myself, and of course all the sources that were included were processing that I was doing over and over again when I was mixing. So I decided to create an instrument that was easy to use and would require no use of plugins if you wanted to get to this classic modern 80s drum sound. And the feedback from you guys has been amazing. Thank you so much for all the love that you've shown to the Modern 80s Kit, the original one. Many of you have used it in productions. I know it's been used heavily in the Nashville country scene, so I didn't even expect this, but there you go. But ever since I released this, I wanted more from the Modern 80s Kit. You guys had your own feedback and I really listened. So today I'm presenting you the Modern 80s Kit Max. And to begin with, I want to play some of the presets for you so you can hear what sounds you can expect. Now in these presets you will find sounds that range from 80s drum machines, 90s drum machines, modern hybrids that can be used in modern productions. Cinematic sounds. But also sounds that are great for layering. So even if you produce a metal track, you can still use some of the sounds there, because some of the sounds I designed specifically for layering, even for acoustic drums. What I wanted with the Modern 80s Kit Max was to feel like an analog drum machine. I wanted to have all the features that you would expect from these old school drum machines. So the sample length, the tuning, all these things, I wanted them to be there. We have over 250 original samples. These I sound designed from scratch using original vintage drum machines from the 80s and 90s, and I processed those through analog gear and tasty tube equipment. But this time there's also something really special, because we have also cinematic custom hits. So these are recorded in various different places with multiple mic positions so that you can get this natural room sound. These are not processed with reverbs. These are all stomps, hits, and other sounds with the natural reverb of the space they were recorded. Like with the original, the Modern 80s Kit Max works inside Halion Sonic. So if you have Cubase, you already have it. And if you don't have Cubase, it works with AU and AAX instruments as well as VST3 hosts. The Modern 80s Kit Max is a complete redesign. It's not going to replace the original Modern 80s Kit, and actually many of the things that you will see here required clever and advanced scripting, so I actually teamed up with DV Tools and Devet, and he did an amazing job realizing all my requests. Like I said, this has been a 3-year project. I know that many of you are going to ask, I'm 100% sure, is the original Modern 80s Kit included? And yes, the original, the OG Modern 80s Kit is included along with all the sauces. If you have the original, they're not compatible, they're completely new instruments, but all the original sauces are there. So just to give you an idea, here's my Modern 80s Kit Max here in Halion Sonic. I click on it and you will see here we have all the presets. So we have over 50 presets here. And if you're using Cubase, you can also find the Modern 80s Kit Max inside the Halion Sonic instrument here in your media bay, and you can load presets straight from there. Here's the original preset. Let's turn on the kick sauce. Let's add some thump, definition, snare sauce, tightness. Let's add some kick width, snare verb, gate. And let's try and add some of the toms non-linear reverb. Snare reverser, you can turn it on and off here as well. Or the toms. And now because I have all these sounds inside, it's very easy to start creating your own custom drum kits. You can select your elements here, you can even select them by MIDI. And then you can select the sample you want to use. As you can see, we have tons of samples and they're nicely categorized so you can place any sound in any key. And of course, the Modern 80s Kit original sounds are right there. The whole point of the Modern 80s Kit Max is to get to a drum sound as quickly as possible using minimal or no plugins. So that's why I designed even more sauces in this version. So you will see we have sauces A, that were the original sauces, and if we go to sauces B, you will find that we have way more sauces now. So let me show you what we have here. Here we have a new sauce called Kick Sub. So this will give you, like the name suggests, a more modern approach. So you can have an original vintage kick, and then you can add a sub underneath. So this is extremely useful if you have a vintage sample and you want to make it sound a little bit more modern with a little bit more body. Then we have kick tape. That's going to shave the edge of the kick a little bit so that you can make it louder in the mix. Then we have sauces for the snare, and you will see that the snare is always yellow. And let's add the snare body now. So this adds quite a bit of meat to the snare. Then we have snare tape. Similar to the kick tape, this adds a little bit of tape saturation. And you will see that it lifts the snare up when it comes to sustain, but it shaves off the transients a little bit, exactly how tape would do it. Then we have another sauce for the snare called Snare Grit. Now, for this one, I wanted to add a little bit of a vintage vibe for the snares. So you can imagine the sound design possibilities even by using one single sample. Then we have Claps Sizzle. This is supposed to make the claps pop a little bit more. We have Claps Lush. This will add a little bit of movements to the claps if you want it for a specific section of your song. Then we have the Tom's Punch and Tom's Tightness. This was something that I wanted to add to the original, but it was becoming too complicated without scripting. So now that I work with Devet, it was very easy to implement all these things that I had in my head. So let's try the punch. And the tightness. So if you want your toms to be a little bit more tight, this is something that you want. Sometimes if you have like, you know, these kinds of rolls, you can just make them tighter if you want to. Then we have hats vintage. Now, sometimes with hi-hats, they tend to stick out in a mix. And this is something that I don't really like. So this sauce is so that you can cure this problem. This emulates this kind of vintage vibe from old school drum machines. So if your hi-hats are a little bit harsh, you can add the hats vintage and immediately it will take away some of the harshness and it will incorporate some vintage vibe, some lo-fi vibe to the sound. Now, let's move on to the spaces. As you can see, we have spaces A and then we have spaces B. And again, I've added quite a few more spaces for the snares. So that's the original reverb. And now I've added even more reverb. So I've added this really crazy non-linear reverb here. So you can get sounds from this or this. The next reverb that I've added there is the snare stadium. So this is for like these big epic snare hits. And of course you can use it also with the gate. And I've also added a delay for this reverb, if you want to create some creative effects there. Then I added another sauce that I always use in my productions, and this is the claps highlight. So imagine you have... So basically this highlights the hi-hat. The next thing we have is the toms flanger, and this is something again that sometimes I like to use. Really straightforward. Then we have percussion delay, and again here we have much more percussion. In the original Modern 80s kit there was only a clave, and you can time the delay. And the last spaces sauce is the crash sustain. So let's say we have this crash. If I turn up the crash sustain, I get this nice delay that prolongs the crash. This is a very typical production trick, and this is also implemented in the instrument. So you don't have to do any work outside of the Modern 80s Kit Max with plugins. Some coffee because I have so many things to show you. I'm going to switch to another preset. I'm going to switch to Analog Delight. And I'm going to show you some more stuff that are brand new in the Modern 80s Kit Max. We have a MIDI selection button here. So basically when you activate this, you can select any sound on your keyboard or your drum pad. I mean, I have Machina, but I always prefer playing drums on the keyboard. And you can select the actual zone here, the element. So kick, snare, and of course you can select them right here straight away. And then let's say I want to change this snare, for example. I can just go here and I can just select any of the snares that I want, or anything else actually. It doesn't have to be a snare. It could be a percussion hit. So let's go for the movie hit. Like that. But let's say I want to go back to my snares. I can go to my snares here and I can select one of the snares. I can use my arrows here to move between different samples. And right here, we can hear all these snares with the sources that we have, so it doesn't reset the sources when you change the sample. And there's more. So if I want to pan, let's say this snare, I can just pan it. And the other snare that we have, it's still at 12 o'clock. So I can have... And as you can see, I can have independent pan, level, and pitch for every sound. So let's say I want to tune my kick drum. And you can even change the amp envelope, so the decay, as if the sources were not enough, you can also do this. And then we have a new section called Super Punch. Now, this allows you to shape the envelope of the elements even more, with more precision. So what I like to do is I like to set my curve first, and then I can adjust my sharpness, how sharp I want the attack to be, and then I can decide how much amount I'm going to add to this. And then by fine-tuning these controls, you can see how many different sounds you can get. It's really a specialized tool so that you can get even more punch and you can have even more controls of the samples. So what I would do is I would play with all three parameters, make sure that the amount is up so that you can hear something happening. So let's try this one. So you can hear how many different sounds you can get. And like I said, it's very different when it comes to snares or kicks or claps and so on and so forth. Let me learn one of my favorite presets. This is called Cinematic Sonority, and it's a cinematic preset. And I'm going to take this preset as an example so I can show you what you can do with this section, this nice screen that we have here. This allows you to get access to the length of the samples, but also the play modes. So for example, let's say I have this sound here. Okay. Now, this sound would make an excellent reverse hit. So what I can do is I can have it play in reverse. So I'm going to select reverse one shot, and now I can just play it. And you get this kind of effect. Now, here's where the length comes into play. So as you can see, if I play here, there's a lot of tail here. And it takes a long time for the sample to reach to the end. So what I like to do is I like to go in reverse mode. So I can play and stop it. If I lift the key now, it's going to stop playing the sample. So when I go to length, I can now set the length. I wanted this so bad, but again, like I said, this required very deep scripting and programming, and I'm a sound designer, I'm a producer, I'm not a programmer, so that's why I'm so happy to work with the DV Comp tools on this project. So now, as you can see, I can select the length, so I can start from here. Or here. And this you can do with pretty much every single sound. So if I go to, let's say, the analog machinery, and I go for this snare, if I want to make it a little bit shorter, I can go like this. Or I can completely remove the beginning. And you can get so many different sounds out of one single sample. And if you want to go back to the original sample length, you can just hit reset here and you're gonna go to the original sample. Now let me load another kit. This is the Glory kit. And now let me show you some more new features in the Modern 80s Kit Max. Now we have a dedicated mixer page. So if I go here to mixer, you will find a brand new redesigned mixer. You still have access to your elements and your samples right here. So you can still focus on creating a drum kit if you want to. And here, of course, you can select the level for each one of the groups. So for example, if you have snares, the snares can have their own individual volumes here. So if I want to turn this down a bit, panics, and let's do this. But when I go to the mixer, right here, I'm controlling the group of the snare. So snare. So all the snares. The same goes for the toms. So for the toms, one of the requests that you guys had was to be able to pan them freely left and right. And now this is, of course, possible. So these are my different tom panning values, and if I go to the mixer, you will see that I can control all the toms right here. I can solo, mute, all the good stuff. And one of the requests that I had for the original Modern 80s kit by many of you was to have multiple outputs so that you can send your kick drum, snare, claps, and so on and so forth to different buses inside your DAW. This was not a feature that I needed because I am very used to loading an instance of each instrument so that I can have total control inside my Cubase mixer. Nevertheless, I understand why you guys wanted it. This is now possible. So if you want, for example, to send your kick drum, your snare to a different output, you can now do this. And let me show you how you do this. If you go here, when you load your Hylian Sonic instrument in Cubase, you will see there's main only. Now, what you want to do is you want to go to your VSTI and you go to your Modern 80s kit. This is the instance that I have right here. And now you go here and you activate outputs. And now you can activate as many outputs as you want. And now the only thing you need to do is go and update outs and check what happens here. Now we have all the outputs available, which means that I can send my kick drum here, my snare to output 2, claps to output 3, and so on and so forth. And this means that if I go to my mixer here, see, kick drum, snare, claps. If you still want to take advantage of these sources here, I would suggest you send everything to the main output though, because the original sources are still there. We have the 80s compress sauce, we have the bus punch, we have the bus room. And we also have the final sauce, just to add the final touches. And if you want to make sure that your level will not go over 0, you can just turn on the limit button right here. But there's more, because with the Modern 80s Kit Max, I've also added a new sauce for the outputs, and this is the vintage mode. And the vintage mode gives you a sound that we normally associate with vintage drum machines, with old school samplers, and it can go into lo-fi effects territory as well. So this is a punchy, bright drum kit. Let's activate vintage mode. And I would really encourage you to play with all three, the fidelity, the bit, and the age parameters, because the combination of all three of them give you massively different sounds. So there you go, my friends. I'm so excited to share this new instrument with you. I want to say again, this doesn't replace the Modern 80s Kit. The Modern 80s Kit is still going to be available. I want to have a really, really affordable product for everyone out there. I'm going to have a killer early birds offer for the Modern 80s Kit Max just for a limited amount of time. And if you have already purchased the Modern 80s Kit or the Collapse Vault or the Synthwave bundle, you're going to be eligible for an amazing price for the Modern 80s Kit Max. I'm going to send email with discount codes to all of you. If you're subscribed to my mailing list, you will receive an email. If you're not subscribed, I cannot email you. I'm really sorry. But this is going to be the lowest price this instrument is going to be, and it's exclusively for Modern 80s Kit, Collapse Vault, and Synthwave bundle users, so don't miss that. As also, this is also a way to support the channel. I don't have subscriptions yet. I know many of you ask me about this. I don't have a Patreon. I know many of you tell me, why don't you have a Patreon? If you want to support the channel and you liked what you saw today, grab a copy of the Modern 80s Kit, and I hope you make some great music with it, because this will give me the utmost joy. Thank you so much for watching, my friends. I hope you enjoyed this. Have fun, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.